We've got a jam-packed show for you tonight. Less than an hour away from a brand new interview with President Obama on Syria. Make sure to stay tuned for that. Yeah. Now, tomorrow night, the president will address the nation at 9 p.m. A special programming note, set your DVRs for a special 11 p.m. edition of The Five tomorrow with reaction to his speech. Wow, immature. Now, today's developments on Syria. Now, it was all hands on deck from the administration and their allies in a final push to convince the country that we need to attack.
The Assad regime's inhuman use of weapons of mass destruction against innocent men, women, and children violates a universal norm at the heart of our global order. And therefore, it demands a strong response from the international community led by the United States.
If there are no consequences, Assad gets the message that he's free to use these weapons going forward.
The evidence is powerful. And the question for all of us is, what are we going to do about it? Turn our backs? Have a moment of silence where a dictator can, with impunity, threaten the rest of the world that he's going to retaliate?
All right, so Eric, what do you make of these comments? A strong push across all fronts. You even saw Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, everyone is out today. Susan Rice, Hillary Clinton, John Kerry. Susan Rice today said there's no negotiating with these people. This is what we have to do. Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, said maybe we should sit down and negotiate. The bottom line is, and Bob pointed this out last week, he said, I'd like to find out where the American people are now, because of the last poll we had 48% of the American people against attacking Syria. Well, guess what, Bob? We went from 48% against to 63% opposing attacking Syria right now, so it's gone up 15%. 70% of Republicans oppose, 66% of independents oppose, and 53% of Democrats oppose doing this. The American people don't want this. I can't figure out why in hell we're going to do this.
I'm going to ask Dana. So from a communication standpoint, let's talk about the messaging. It seems that they are not connecting with the American people to be able to get the kind of support across the board that they need. Perhaps there were some problems, with the videos that came out. People were very suspicious and didn't want to get involved in Syria. A lot of that's not our war, our problem.
I think you're being kind in the way that you're describing their situation. So if you want to support the president, it's not your responsibility to convince the American people. It is theirs. President Obama on Saturday was not out talking about this. He was playing golf. On Sunday, they had on the Sunday shows Dennis McDonough, the chief of staff, not convincing. Today, when President Obama, right now, he is in the middle of doing 6 network interviews. But one of the things he has to do is clean up the mess from everybody else in the administration who's been speaking today, including his own Secretary of State, John Kerry, which basically undid everything that the president talked about last week.
I'm glad you brought that up. Let's take a listen to Secretary Kerry.
Is there anything at this point that his government could do or offer that would stop an attack?
Sure, he could turn over every single bit of his chemical weapons to the international community in the next week. Turn it over, all of it, without delay, and allow a full and total accounting for that. But he isn't about to do it, and it can't be done, obviously.
All right, this is the latest communication message.
If that is an option, why wasn't that the option 2 weeks ago when John Kerry gave a full-throated speech about why intervention was necessary and it needed to be immediate? And now President Putin has taken them up on their offer and this is, okay, well, I'll call on Assad to do that.
But you gave him that idea.
No, not really. I think that was probably in the cards. I was just reading the tea leaves.
Isn't that another red line, though? Didn't John Kerry just draw another red line? We'll give you a week to turn it over or else?
I think it was light pink.
Okay, well, blurred.
I read somebody said it was the red eraser.
Oh, the red eraser.
I asked a friend of mine who I used to poll with over this weekend, who was polling, to put in a question that was not about going to war with Syria. This question specifically was, if you were convinced that the evidence was there, that Syria had used chemical weapons against innocent men, women, and children, would you support a U.S. effort to get rid of the delivery mechanism? Now, I was shocked. It still was 50% against going in to do that, and something like, 30% or something, 35% in favor of it. Now, I could say that this is people who are war-weary and the rest of it. There's a dynamic going on here I don't quite understand, and maybe they don't trust Obama, but Having said that, that does not change the reality. And the reality is they're not going to take their chemical weapons and turn over to the international community, no matter what Kerry says or whether Putin is making that cheap offer at the end. The fact of the matter is, if Congress votes against it, we have a moral imperative to go and take these things out. And if we don't, we are going to pay a terrible price for it down the road.
Where? Where would you pay that price?
You're going to, every despot who's got nuclear chemical weapons is going to use them with impunity.
I disagree because clearly the invasion of Iraq didn't do anything to Assad. Obama has created a new kind of coalition. It's a consensus of nothing, or a nonsensus. And so you have all hands on deck while the ship is sinking. You've got 8 people saying 8 different things. It's not a government. It's the Brady Bunch. But the interesting thing here, when you bring up the red line, in my opinion, was a red herring. This was never that important to Obama. Syria was never that important. The things that are outside our border were never important. For him, it's always been about the social change within our borders, including open borders, climate change, taxation, Obamacare. His goal is a progressive society. The other stuff, like Syria, is essentially playing computer solitaire until his favorite show is on. So this is essentially just wasting time, just so he can get to the things he wants to do. But there have been so many contradictory messages, it's actually hurt him.
You don't believe that he really feels strongly that you shouldn't use chemical weapons?
I don't believe he feels strongly about anything.
Maybe Jared and Michelle Obama feel strongly about women and children getting gas.
What we really need to find out is whether or not this will help or not.
I just want to hear Greg's answer.
Go ahead, Greg.
Go ahead.
I believe that he might be the most ambivalent leader we've ever had in the history of this country. He is too cool for school. So it's like, if this doesn't happen, if we don't like it, it's okay. It's why they use academic language whenever they're talking about something, why he wants to unpack a question. This is all about kind of like a lackadaisical way of looking at the world that doesn't actually project leadership.
I couldn't agree more. What were you saying?
My point is, what's the reason for going into Syria? You say there's a moral obligation, I guess. You want to fulfill your moral obligations. Go send them some humanitarian aid. I've seen more videos. There are people the Muslim Brotherhood is posting on my Facebook page. Syrian people who are pro-Assad are posting on my Facebook page. They're posting stuff that's far more disturbing than anything that's leaking out of the White House. You want to help them with humanitarian aid, because this isn't our conflict.
You think we're on the wrong side of this?
President Obama goes into Syria for one reason: to stabilize either Syria or the Middle East. That's the only reason to do it. And by doing so, I believe, and that so do the American people believe, that by doing so, he's going to have the opposite effect. He's going to destabilize the region.
Do you believe if we do not act, that any other despot in the world will feel they have impunity to use chemical weapons?
I do not think that'll be the case.
Greg, you just said moments ago on the 5.
Yes.
You said that it didn't seem to, Iraq, Afghanistan, all that didn't seem to have any effect. It was a precedent that didn't matter to Bashar Assad, because he doesn't seem in any way dissuaded from acting in the way he does.
What did you mean by that? There was no use of chemical weapons at that point.
What are you talking about? No, I'm just saying that the threat of America doing something had no effect on Assad's dealing and killing, perhaps 100,000 deaths in his country.
Can we take a step back? If the American people don't want it, why are we doing it? Why would we say, go ahead, President Obama, risk our money, risk our lives? What's the point?
But there's too much confusion behind it, because no one has a clear answer, because the messaging
the American people in Poland didn't want Medicare either.
Did he not raise his right hand and take the oath to protect, preserve, and defend the United States Constitution? That would be including answering to the American people.
Where is it in the Constitution that says you have to have a majority of the American people in polls saying
we need to do something here, though, for a moment. I want to talk about Congress and what's he going to do there. Is he going to be able to convince them? What kind of support? And I think there's an interesting piece of sound that we can listen to. Representative Adam Kinzinger on White House offering his help.
You can't begin to build a relationship with Congress for the first time when you need their support on something like this. I mean, look, a week and a half ago, my office actually reached out to the White House and said, hey, we support the strike on Syria. We're going to help you round up support if you need it. I haven't heard back from the White House yet. I don't know who my White House, I haven't heard back from anyone. I don't even know who my White House liaison is, which is supposed to be creating this relationship.
Oof, that doesn't sounds like
this has been a years-long problem for the president. He has terrible congressional relations. And I don't know why they wouldn't have taken the congressman up on his offer. There are probably others. But this does go back to, I think, just to pull all these points together. In 2011, there was an IAEA Board of Governors report on chemical weapons in Syria. Then President Obama, a year later, made the remarks in the White House briefing room about the red line in Syria. Then it seems to me, unless they can show me differently, that there was no planning, no outrage, no work of to build up congressional relations in the last year. 6 months ago, there's reports out of France and Britain that Syria had used chemical weapons. It does beg a question of whether or not President Obama had his eye on the ball on the whole Middle East region in general. They've got huge problems in Egypt. They've had Benghazi that's been on their plate for a year. I think that by staging the congressional vote, President Obama has weakened future presidents, whoever they might be.
I couldn't agree with that more. Why they ever asked for this vote in the first place makes no sense to me whatsoever. There was no reason, no constitutional reason, no any other reason.
Any reason you thought he might have gotten it? Because there is no reason to put yourself out there.
I didn't know it was going to be this bad, but I think it would have been very tough to get through the House. And by the way, on congressional relations, he has tried from day one in office to have a relationship with the Republicans. Yes, he has. And they've turned him down left and right for purely political and in my view, in many cases, un-American activity.
I think that would be proven false, Bob. When you look back at even the Dan Balls report on, I think it was on the Obamacare vote, where they looked at any of the members of Congress for weeks leading up to the first vote, they had never even heard anything from the White House. It was an arrogant way to treat them. They have been the most partisan White House, even from the White House podium, the president himself, and so they're reaping what they sowed.
Yeah, they're like begrudgingly even accepting support from McCain. Yes, Greg.
I think the funniest thing that we've overlooked here is John Kerry's stipulation that the attack would be unbelievably small. Does that mean we're going to be bombing them with confetti poppers?
Right.
Imagine post 9/11 if George Bush said, "Okay, they flew planes into our buildings. We're going to respond with something unbelievably small." It doesn't strike fear in your enemies to tell them how small your response. This is something that a surgeon says to a patient or a dentist says. This won't hurt a bit. But Assad is not our patient. Assad is our enemy at this point. Apparently, if we're going to attack him.
That's a very good point. What do you think was his thinking behind that?
He was trying to reassure the American public that it wouldn't be a commitment like Iraq, but that reassurance to the American public actually reassured Assad that they can actually endure, perhaps tolerate lightly, even a small pinprick.
Eric, what's the takeaway from that?
The takeaway is when you have the UN that says don't go, a lot of the international
community
don't go. They absolutely did say don't go.
They said wait.
They said wait. Yeah. A lot of the international community says don't go. Congress will likely say don't go. The American people are overwhelmingly saying don't go. There's only one reason for President Obama to do it. He's taking it upon himself. It's an egotistical move for whatever reason, to protect his legacy as, I don't know, really? Nobel Peace Prize winner? Avoiding all the indications that say don't go, he's going to go.
You think that's going to protect his legacy? Wouldn't that argue just the opposite, that it's going to be a bad thing for his legacy?
I have no idea why this man wants to kill a bunch of Syrians.
Because he wants to kill people who are delivering these weapons of mass destruction. And if he doesn't do that, it will go down his legacy.
You want to talk War Powers Act? You want to talk War Powers? He has to go to Congress to declare war. If he doesn't want to do that, there has to be an imminent threat against the American people. Where is it?
There will be. If you allow this guy to get away with using chemical weapons.
At that point, then you go.
Well, by allowing him to go ahead and do this, you pose an imminent threat to the American people.
I think what Bob's talking about is the argument of preemption.
Sure.
And can President Obama convince the American people tonight in the interviews and in his primetime speech tomorrow night that he has a plan that will actually be a deterrent, that the military effort that he's proposing will be so disproportionate that Assad will then change his plans or his. But here's the worst. This is the worst outcome. Say that President Obama does it, it's unbelievably small, and then chemical weapons are used again.
Sure.
It's the plans A, B, and C that they haven't laid out, even to people like Dianne Feinstein, who was out this weekend. I did think that the video that they leaked out, that was shown to the intel community last week, of the innocent children, women and children, suffering, can't get a breath, and die from the chemical weapons use. I think there should be a price for that. But the administration continues to unravel its case. It's like when you're not supposed to pull a thread on a sweater. They've been pulling it all day long, and pretty much there's nothing left of the sweater.
They should have showed that video from as soon as they had it and played it over and over and over again and say, look, you vote against this. Take a look at this. Take a look at these people dying. The first women and children we know of, except for Assad and Hitler, who did this.
But you're not trying to remove Assad.
Hussein and Hitler.
Okay.
You're lining up with Hussein and Hitler.
The goal is not to remove Assad. You're still going to keep the same regime with the same chemical weapons.
I repeat myself. The last two people to use these things were Adolf Hitler and Saddam Hussein.
All right, well.
And you were for that war?
No, we went in and did something about it. We're doing nothing about this.
Okay.
Even if Obama has...
We ought to be ashamed of ourselves.
If President Obama has a message tomorrow, will anybody be listening? He's gone from a forceful leader to a tree in the forest. As he falls, no one's even